The place where if you don't play your cards right, your dreams may become nightmares. Welcome to the life and times of King Fee. Welcome to my sexual underworld. Chapter 1. The Track. I remember my introduction to the track. I lived in Sacramento, and I would frequent Oakland to visit my sister from time to time. I remember one particular summer, I was told that we were going to go visit my sister, but we ended up never returning back home. She was having some relationship issues, and my mother, being the protector that she is, we came out to try to save her. I remember my first experience living in Oakland was a cool one. My sister took me to see Another Bad Creation, which was a rap group at the time. 5 child rappers that all basically rapped about adult content. The concert was at the Scottish Rite Centre by the lake. My birthday always falls on Memorial Weekend, so this year was my first time going to the Karijama. The Karijama is a Caribbean festival held every year at Mosswood Park. It was then I would meet one of my first childhood friends, and we're still friends to this day. I remember the drums waking me up. I couldn't wait to go see what it was about. There were thousands of people in costumes. Guys hanging around, talking to the ladies. This was my first experience of the cold approach. I had always talked to girls in class before, but never at random strange ones. Some of these girls were even older than me. So I got a few numbers or whatever, and what I thought would be distant relationships. I won't bore you with the story, but fast forward and I end up living at my sister's house. My sister's house was right on the track. Shafter and West MacArthur, to be exact. At the time, this neighborhood was fucked. It's funny now that it's all gentrified, but back then this was a park where you were not allowed to go to at night. The older cats sold crack, dudes would hang out and fight, and of course there was prostitution. I remember back in those days, the prostitution was heavy. I had seen this in the movies like The Mac, Willie Dynamite, etc., but it was live in my face. If you walk down the track, there is hotel after hotel. This strip was about maybe 3 miles long, and selling pussy was non-stop. There would be pimps out, but they're not like the movies though. Sharp-dressed cats who have the slicked-back perms. Although they were older cats who fit the bill, these were just guys that were fresh and flashy. Even though I was around 11 years old, I was able to make friends with them. I guess I was so mannish and bold that they didn't mind hanging out with my young ass. I think at the time, my mother was kind of lenient on disciplining me. I feel like my father dying of cancer made her super soft in my discipline plan. No, I wasn't a bad kid at all, but I can't recall having a curfew. My memories of being a child are pretty much staying out as late as I wanted. Maybe around the time I was 15 and up, I was pretty much doing my thing. I did good grades, I was respectful, and I feel like maybe that's all my mother really expected out of me. I remember people used to smoke crack in the laundromat where I lived. I would hate the smell of it. Sometimes I would just think to myself, I wanted to go back home to where we left. A place with rich friends, and swimming in the pool was the norm. Now I'm here in the gutter. But, infatuated with this track, I was familiar with pimps and hoes already. This was just a new, face-to-face POV edition. I would walk around casually, looking lost, yet not to be fucked with. I would do this so that the pimps would initiate conversation with me, so that I didn't have to. A few of them would talk to me often and became my friends. They became my mentors and would let me hang out in the hotel rooms with them. I would watch them interact with hoes, and I had a front row seat. I remember I had a friend/mentor named Anton. He was a young pimp. He even let me disrespect his hoes a few times. I remember he would check his main girl. It would be so hard not to try to laugh. I think he would do it just to impress me. I wasn't only impressed, I was taking notes. I couldn't understand why he would talk to her like shit. She would cry and threaten to leave, but then she never would. They all would never leave. And the ones that did choose to leave, it was business as normal. I would ask, what happened to Shirley? Oh, she shows up on some older cat. He was so unbothered, and that's how I learned the game. People usually have relationships, the typical girlfriend-boyfriend relationship. And when they break up, they're sad and heartbroken. I learned the mindset of the cop and blow. He couldn't sweat off one that he lost because he had 2 or 3 to tend to. I liked this strategy of having multiple options, and I found it very effective. I remember him telling me you got to call a woman a bitch sometimes. He would actually show me this, and sometimes women would be flattered by the way he called them a bitch. Again, this blew my mind. But even then, I was young enough and intelligent enough to not always show my emotion. Anything that he did, I would always act unfazed. Actually, I hung around a lot of pimps. I would make my runs to Carl's Jr. and to the corner store to find a reason to run into them. Even my friends and family aren't aware of this. Only you guys, the readers. Carl's Jr. is where they hung out. I remember the popular hotel rooms. There were a few of them. More prominent players would stay at the better motels. But let's get back to Tuan. The reason why I liked Tuan so much, though, was because he was close to my age, and his mindset was totally different compared to mine. I wanted sex, and he was selling sex. I remember he told me if I found a girl that was ready to work, to come talk to him, and he would show me the ropes. I remember finding one later on, but he wasn't around. I think he was in jail. The art of improv is key. I learned the lingo and the swagger to attract those types of women. You have to understand that pimping and hoeing, it's like an underworld. The same way as if you work and you drive the bus. Everyone who works for the bus station is in the know of everyone else and what they do. It's the same thing here. It's not like the square game. It's the underworld. I was serious about the game. I would even talk to crackheads. I can tell that some of these crackheads were attractive when they were younger, and I wanted to know what got them onto the streets. There were times I would buy little snacks for information, just picking their brains. Not necessarily to have them work for me, but to hear about the mindset of a woman who does these sorts of things. I remember I used to stay across the street from the AAA, which was an insurance company. On the late nights, the police would pull up, and it would get served by the prostitutes. This happened so much that me and my mother and sister joked about it. Sometimes it will be up to 3 cars, all posted with prostitutes. It was even funny because most of the police officers were white, and the prostitutes were black. Back then, interracial dating wasn't common the way that it is now. So it would be funny to see white police officers fraternizing with the black prostitutes. But most of the police were white. They will usually get blowjobs. Sometimes I will see them having sex. Actually, on the contrary, I will make the parking lot my spot for drive-bys, and I would dig out chicks in the same parking lot as I would watch the police officer doing the prostitutes. I would get a kick out of it. It was like a full circle. I was doing what I saw being done in the place, and I understood why they got a thrill out of doing it. Of course, they can get hotel rooms if they get paid big bucks, or so I thought. It was the thrill of not getting caught. I would also learn there are types of women that are excited to do the things that they're not supposed to do. Sometimes it's about the actual action, but other times it's the thrill of someone seeing them or being caught. You'll be surprised what you can learn if you sit back and pay attention. I was always good at this. I learned a game hand in hand, watching my elders and having a voice. Mainly though, I will pick up the game, evaluate, and teach myself. Even though I was young and I didn't have a woman working for me, the dynamics of my relationships were still pimps and hoes energy. I was the king, and women put me on the pedestal. I didn't know any other way. Matter of fact, I didn't understand any other way. When I was young, in elementary school, etc., women always put me on the pedestal because I didn't pay them any attention. The only difference, when I got a little older, was that I demanded it. Speaking of demanding, don't ever expect a woman to just hand things over. You got to make sure you're asking for it. Chapter 2. Sex with the Homies.